Hi, I'm Sister Simone Campbell. I'm the Executive Director of Network, Lobby for Catholic Social Justice, and I have the honor for being the leader of Nuns on the Bus. You can see that in our graphics also. Today, we are in Flint, Michigan. Now, many of you know that Flint, Michigan made headlines a few years ago with their horrible water crisis created by the decision of their city officials with the collusion of the state to state officials to change from their treated water to river water, and a catastrophe ensued. So we're going to be at St. Luke's. This is our second visit at St. Luke's, which is doing some amazing work. We were here in 2014, so I'm really excited to see how their program has developed and all of the things that they're into. But the other piece we're going to talk about is this water crisis and what the current state of affairs are. So welcome to our site visit at St. Luke's in Flint, Michigan. Today we have with us four folks who are great hostesses. And when we were there in person, I'll tell you, they had great hospitality. It's a little easier in COVID times that we're just doing it by this broadcast method, but I still remember the great lunch we had. So we have Sister Judy and Sister Carol, who were foundresses of St. Luke's, and we have Tiffany and Christine, who are staff persons and who went through the program. So we've got great tour guides who can tell us about their program. And I see a kitchen in the background. Is that part of St. Luke's, I'm guessing, behind you? Or is that's just somebody's house? I should have asked before. It's just somebody's house. Okay. So let's get started. And Sister Judy, could you give us the just kind of, how did you get this started? What got you to do this?
Well, I was on a 30-day retreat in Colorado, and I kept having a dream that had women in it, and they kept saying in this dream, "Help us! We need your help. We're talented, we're gifted, we can do things. We just need somebody to help us." And so I talked it over with my director, and she said, "Keep praying with it." At the end of the retreat, she wanted to know did I learn anything new? I said no. So I came back to Flint, and I was telling Sister Carol about it, and she said, "Well, you got to pray about that." I said, "I know. The director told me that too when I left." So as time went on, I just put it on the back burner for quite a while. And one Sunday, Sister Carol came home from having gone to class with her niece who was preparing for confirmation. And she sat down, didn't take her coat off. I knew there was trouble on the vine. And she said to me, when are you going to start that program? Or when are you going to do something about that dream of yours?" And I just looked at her and said, "Why?" She said, "Well, Allison and I have to have a project for confirmation. Why don't we start something?" And I said,
Whoa.
"Okay, I'm game if you're game." And so what developed was the idea that we would take out some clothing on the street. And Allison was it was cold, it was winter time. And Allison had
In Michigan, yes.
made some scarves and stuff like that and brought them with her. The night before we went out on the street, she came to our house. They made cookies to pass out, and the whole thing was a big hit. And we were surprised at how wonderful things were going. So then we decided to keep going out on the street. And then there we heard the stories of the women. We actually sat on curbs listening to them, trying to comfort them when they were crying. They needed so much help and so many different kinds of assistance that wasn't available in Flint. And so we talked about it, and we did start a street ministry. On the street ministry one day, we met a woman who was looking for some newborn baby clothes, and she needed a specific gender. It was not for her. She told Sister Carol, "These are not for my child. but the woman who was in the house, the abandoned house next to me last night, gave birth to a baby. This is January,
Oh,
all by
no.
herself. And she only had a sweatshirt and stuff on. She wrapped the baby up in her sweatshirt and went knocking on doors around her. And nobody answered the door except this one woman. And she took her to Hurley Hospital. And in the morning, the mom and baby were all fine. They could go, but they had to have baby clothes for the baby. So that's how they got there. And
Wow.
so we we got in the car after the street ministry, and both of us said at the same time, we got to do more for women than just band-aid with here's some food, here's some clothes. Anybody can do that. We've got to do something to help them out. And so the birth of that baby boy was also the birth of the St. Luke New Life Center.
Wow.
So
Wow.
all
Oh,
the years that we've been there, every time we see a young man, we came in and saw a young man about the same age of that child. We wondered if he was the one.
wow. But I
Yeah,
love how it started with retreat
yeah,
and grew
yeah.
because of that is that. Oh my gosh, that brings tears to my eyes. How challenging. So when did St. Luke start? How long ago was this?
What was the starting date, Carol?
We were
201?
The center was opened in 2002,
2002.
and
Okay.
5 years before that, we were going out onto the street with clothing and food.
Wow. Wow.
We've
Well,
been
Carol,
here.
do you want to pick up the story now, Carol, with how it's evolved?
Oh, sure. We started out by gathering together all of the women that we had helped in our food pantry. So they all received notice of a meeting that we were going to have. And we had 43 women come to this meeting.
Whoa.
Because this the church, St. Luke Church, was open, but this building was going to be closed because it was rented by the Flint Public Schools. And Sister Judy took the notice to the people and said, "This is what's going to happen. What do you think we should do with that building?" And many of our people knew the stories because they either were with us or they had heard the stories. So they told us that we needed to do something for women and children in this building. And so we just took that upon ourselves as the liberty to be able to do here what the women needed. And we're educators, but we were not comfortable imposing a program. So we gathered the women together, asked them what they felt this building needed to be for them. And, gathering 43 women together, just about imagine all the ideas. But there were like three that continued to surface. And those three were they needed a safe place to meet, they needed to grow in their self esteem, and they needed to grow in their education because many did not have their high school. Um,
Um,
so that's how we built the program. We built it
wow.
on their needs and continue this day. Those are the things that we do today.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, and so as I recall, St. Luke's that the building was a former grammar school in the parish. Is that correct? Yeah. And so you've been using it for a different purpose nowadays.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That
And
is
we have
wonderful.
a lot of people that come back who went here to school and say, "I can't believe what you did with this building." But
Well,
yeah,
here in DC, I've talked with Congressman Kildee, who says he went to school there. So
Yeah, he
I'm
did.
well aware of your work. That's for sure.
he is very supportive.
Yeah, glad to hear that. Well, Tiffany and Christine, can you talk to us a little bit about the program and how you experience it and what your roles are right now in the program?
Yes, hi. Um, well, me myself, I came along to the program by being suffering badly, majorly in depression, and
Oh,
I was on the verge of like giving up, and I had damaged some things in my spine, and it just threw me in the loop, like, oh, you're never gonna work again, and that just knocked me right into depression. That I didn't know what that was at the time, you know. So me trying to get myself together, bettering myself, getting out of that corner in my house for 4.5 years.
Wow.
I
Whoa.
came across some information that St. Luke's down the street from me was having a food drive. And I was like, okay, that's something to do, which I wasn't working at the time. 4.5 years of depression. I was out of work, and my other half was the head of the household and taking care of everything. So I said, you know what, let me go. That's help. Let me go to this food drive, put some food in the cabinet. You know, that made me feel good. And I actually came to St. Luke's, and from the outside to walking in the door, the love I felt, like opening arms, and I just felt connection
Wow.
with everyone, like I've been around them forever. And somewhere out of nowhere, a lady just approached me. I'ma just note that I never seen this lady since she approached me, that I should come to a Wednesday's women's group and, get the event and study the Bible and all sorts of types of things. And I was like, okay, wow, they want me to join this group. I was like, oh yeah, I like it. Women, that's getting me
Yep.
out the house and
Yep.
everything. And I still didn't meet Sister Carol or Sister Judy. So I was just so happy to be in this building. And that following Wednesday, I came back. I actually walked, I got out, got some exercise. I came to that Wednesday group, and I met tons of women, and they all was awesome. And
Wow.
some months went by. No, I say weeks. A few weeks went by, and someone introduced me to the sisters. I said, my God, it's more people, beautiful people, they all just were so wonderful. And I just wanted to help more. I had joined that women's group, didn't know that it was more going on under this roof. So I got all excited, and I wanted to meet the people that had all this going on, all this greatness. And they took me right to Sister Carol. And I probably was crying, hey, but but
Well,
I was so excited
I'm
to
crying
meet
right now.
Sister
I'm crying right
Carol.
now. Hearing it. That's good. That's good.
I was very excited because I heard such wonderful things from others. And it was like, well, you like to do things like cleaning and um, organizing and things, when you get to sharing about your life and everything. So they was like, well, maybe you should go talk to Sister Carol. I said, oh, she here? So I said, take me to her. And they took me right to her office, and I got so excited. And she just was like, well, you want to do, okay, well, come with me. I went with her, and I've been here ever since. She came and checked on me an hour later and was like, yep, you're the best person for the job. And that just melted my heart. And I never wanted to go anywhere. I joined the program, and I joined the GED testing, which I'm still doing at the time. Um, Everything that was going on here, sewing, crocheting, knitting. I don't like knitting, but I enjoyed it. Anything they wanted me to do, cleaning. Right now, I pretty much run the donations department, and I just I love the community,
Wow.
helping. They help me get out of that dark place, so I'm
Yeah.
willing to help whom and whomever that needs the help. So I'm just as giving as them now. So I don't know if I was that kind when I met them. I don't know. But I just really appreciate you ladies,
Wow.
help and love and compassion that you share with me. So I'm willing to give it back. And I graduated August of last year. Yeah, with honors. Ooh, ooh.
Wow. All
And
right.
I love it. So the ladies that come behind me, I just pass it along, whatever they need to know. they need anything from me, I'm here. Open arms, open ears, open shoulders. I landed all. And I just got to keep passing along because they so sweet.
Amen.
Sister
Amen.
Kara, Sister Judy, yes. Everything that goes on here is amazing.
That's for
And
sure. Wow.
it
What
is
a story.
beautiful.
Thank you. To go, I totally hear that struggle of the dark corner and
Yes.
how community can make the difference. Getting connected makes the difference. And now you're a connector. How fantastic that is. Whoa.
Look at me with you all being all
Right.
beautiful. I love it. Thank you.
Great. Oh, thank you. Well, Christine, I'm sure everybody's story is so unique and really important to hear. So, Christine, I'm curious, how did you get involved as St. Luke's, and what are you up to now? What are you doing now?
Working. Well, I'm gonna take it back for a second. My sister Janie, um, she told me about this program. She was like, "You should check it out." She was like, "I'll be sewing. They got a career class." Normally, when she be talking, I really don't be listening to her. I be like, "Oh, okay," because she talk fast, so it's like you hear certain stuff. So I'm like, "Oh, okay." So she was like, and they got another class coming up in January. And I'm like, really? She was like, you need to sign up. She was like, I'm gonna give you the number. So when I called up here, one of the ladies that work in the office, I guess I called too early. It wasn't time yet. But I was like, I'm trying to sign up for the women's program, you know. And she was like, yeah, it gonna start until January the something. I said, can you please put my name on the list? And she put my name on the list, and I got here, and when I say I walked in the door, I felt the love from everybody. It was just really nice to be somewhere. And far as like before that, my depression, me moving from miles away from Georgia, because I was in Georgia for 5 years. I was in Georgia for 5 years. Um, Working, taking care of my kids and stuff. I really moved to Georgia to get away from my family, because sometimes you got to distance yourself from family.
Absolutely.
So, yes. So I went to Georgia. Everything was fine. I met a lot of people because I've been trying to get into like shelters, like helping women and stuff, women and children, trying to get in with some other people because that was my goal to hopefully one day own my own shelter because I just love people, women, children, men, anybody that needs help. I'm willing to help them if I can. So I had to put my goals on hold because my grandmother had cancer.
Oh,
So I had to come here
that's hard. Yeah.
for the surgery and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
She okay now. She fine. She
Wow.
traveling and I'm going out of town next week so she's okay. She's fine.
That's
so
good.
that was a blessing.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because she had cancer in her uterus.
Ew.
So they got it just in time. So everything worked out amazing after that. I was like, thank you, God. Thank you.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
but she's fine. She calls me every other day. Asks, how I'm doing and stuff like that. But far as like coming here, it just opened up so many doors, like meeting people, and everybody was so nice and kind. You don't really meet too many nice people. You don't. So when I came here, it was like everybody was so nice and kind, and I'm like, okay, I like coming here. I'm good. I was back. So
That's great. That's great.
So, and at first I thought I couldn't make it through. I'm like, I don't think I can do this, but I'm gonna try. So I made it through everything that was going on in my life, and I didn't bring it in the building, but they had people coming in to talk to us about whatever we was going through, and it was just a relief to know when I came here. It was like when I went home, it was like, okay, I can actually live my life now. To know that all these wonderful, beautiful people is behind me.
Amen. Amen. So, Sister Carol or Sister Judy, could you talk a bit about the program and how it works? Because as I recall, there's sewing, but there's also so much more that you all do in the program side. So how does this work?
Sure, I'd be happy to. We have a program for men and for women for employment preparation. And it's a 16-week program. And the way we were running it before is they came for 16 weeks, volunteered for 30 hours, and then we graduated, then hired them on paid on-the-job training. But since COVID has happened, and I think we're going to continue this process, they come to 4 classes. And then if they can pass a drug test, then we move them into paid on-the-job training. Because we have 4 social enterprises here. So sewing is one of the social enterprises. We have a hoop house. We have a pallet making company, and we also have lawn care. So we use those social enterprises. It's not so much to make money as it is to train. So we are a training site. And once we are able to move men and women through the training site, then in there, the paid on the job training is like 30 to 90 days. Some need more, some need less. And so if we sit down with them during that time, make sure their resume is up to date, and then we move them into other jobs. And the question we ask is, what do you want to do? What kind of job are you looking for? And we have enough employers that support what we're doing that we can move people. Like if they want manufacturing, we have several employers that are manufacturers, so we can send them into different areas. We just had a recent one. We had a meat cutter call us, and one of our men wanted to do that, and so he just started there. So it's a variety of things, and employers hear about this, and they know that once they leave us, that they have a work ethic, and that's what we're looking for, is to make sure that everyone has a work ethic, and then we can move them forward. Wow. That's one of the programs. But then, as Tiffany was talking about, we don't right now until this COVID thing is lifted, but we have a Wednesday program just to come and meet with other women. That one is for women only. And we have counselors come in. We have a lot of women who have been in abusive situations. And so we work with the local shelter NY here so that we can make sure that they get the counseling, and they'll send counselors over if we need it. We have some of our own counselors here. And then we also work with New Paths Alternatives, which is a program for women who in their last 90 days of incarceration are sent to this New Paths home, and they are invited to come over here for programming on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, we do several programs simultaneously. And
wow.
Then
okay, go on.
The hoop house, Sister Judy can talk about that one.
I'm sorry that I didn't catch what you said.
The hoop house.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I had another goal at one point in time, is to have a hoop house out there, and it'd be a neighborhood garden. And
okay, wait a minute. I gotta figure out what you all are saying, because I haven't heard it. HOOP? Hoop?
Yes, hoop house. It's a greenhouse, but it's got a rounded top instead of the peaked top, so they call it a hoop house. Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. I was trying to think or I don't know.
A hula hoop house, yes. That would be good.
We should bring them back. Yeah. So anyhow, somehow I got in touch with the farmers
like a
organization.
Farmers market?
No, it's more like
it's agriculture.
That's it. Thank you. The agricultural department here in Flint, and they had a grant, and you could they would buy this thing for you and put it up, and then they would pay for it. And so it was like, $1,200, $1,500 operation to put that thing up.
Whoa.
And so we were really excited about that. And it's about 30 feet wide, 30 feet long, and about 10, 20 feet wide. It's a huge one. And it's right in our front yard where you were, where all that grass was when you were here last.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have been doing that now for several years. We have a retired pathologist who came to us one day and wanted to know if he could grow some greens. Well, absolutely, we're going to get you a house and everything. And he has been working in it just all along the way. And then our men and women who are interested in that go out and help him and do some of their training out there. And so we've got also, there's a taco truck in town and a food truck, and he buys our tomatoes and he buys our cilantro. We grow stuff just for him as well as for the neighborhood. So we get a lot of variety out of it. Sister Carol just got done canning lots and lots and lots of raspberries. We have raspberry bushes, and she turned them all into raspberry jam. And
my favorite. Wow.
And it's just been a real blessing. People stop by, they drive up, and they say to Doc, do you have any of this? Do you have any of that? And he said, absolutely. He grew some edible flowers, and we all had to taste them, and they were good. They were good. So,
all right, wait. I have to ask because there's some faces being made down here.
I see that.
Tiffany hasn't had them yet. They actually taste like radishes.
Yeah, the nasturtium tastes really good when you first put it in your mouth, and then all of a sudden that gives you the radish bite. It's a delayed bite.
They use them for garnishing.
Oh, what's this girl?
They use them in restaurants for garnishing salads, and
yeah,
they are edible flowers. They call them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been exciting. Go ahead.
We also have the food pantry.
Yeah, the food pantry has been running a long time, from the very first layoffs at General Motors back in the 70s, and it blossomed out from about 35 people to over 3,000 people a month that would come to our food pantry for food.
Wow.
And they could come. We distributed food 2 days a week during the month, and we just kept getting more and more and more. We watched it grow, and we knew as it was growing that there was a lot of more need out there. Flint was a food insecure place. And so we did our best to try to fill in that gap. Right now, we're still distributing the food during the pandemic, but it's all outside and it's drive up. And the food bank has been really good about selecting us as one of 4 sites that they've had to try to keep up with getting food to the people who need it. So they bring boxes and stuff of truck full of vegetables and fruits and canned goods, and we just add meat to it, and they have a nice box to take home. We just do that on Fridays now.
Wow.
But we're still getting about the same amount of people, because on Fridays there'll be 120, 125 more cars come through there. So we're still meeting the needs of the people, even though it's one day.
Yeah.
The one thing about the way we did it before is we had a lunch going on at that same time, and people could come in, they could sit down and talk to each other, and we wanted to build community. So our meals on those days were really important in building community.
That's what I remember, is that there was this bigger meal, and then we all went outside when we were there in 2014 to sign the bus, and there's this one picture of us, all these people lined up by the bus. So it's one of my favorite pictures. It was fabulous. Well, I'm curious, what other changes has the pandemic required? I mean, I'm really impressed that you're able to continue any of this. So you were talking, Sister Carol, about shifting from more quickly to the employment training, and then I hear Sister Judy about doing the drive up piece, and I understand that you can't do the Wednesday program at this point, but how can you tell us a bit about how you have adjusted programs, and maybe Tiffany and Christine be able to talk about how are you interacting at this point? What's your roles at this point? How are you doing?
We've adjusted the programming, like I shared in the employment prep, but we also have adjusted our GED preparation. Our literacy center is probably 95% GED, and some adult literacy, but it's mostly GED preparation. And so we are doing all that remotely right now because our tutors were not comfortable. So we trained our computers with technology to do Zooming, and our learners are working with our tutors, but we have one-on-one tutoring anyway, so it kind of helps because it's one-on-one now, but it's on Zoom. So we've had to do a lot of training of people on both ends, both the learners and the tutors, in order to do the Zoom, because that's an educational piece right there.
Also,
Yeah. And then for our sewing, we stayed open during all the shelter in place time because we were giving out food, because we continued to do that. And we switched all of our sewing over to making masks. So we made over 13,000 masks at this point. And we've really tried to help our community mask up because it's critical to our area, because so many people are dying from this pandemic. And in our area, they are. The zip code that we're in right here was one of the highest ones in the city of Flint for COVID. So we've had to adjust that way. We are able to do our lawn care right now and we could do that pretty early on because that was an outside thing and it was a smaller group. So each time that we were able to adjust, we've continued to add more. And like Sister Judy said, we are still not doing the meals. I don't know when we're going to be able to do those because there's no way that we can socially distance. And our graduations have been outside. Christina graduated in the last group. It was all outside, and each graduate had their own table, and they could invite 3 guests with them. But our tables were all separated. So it's just you have to roll with the punches here and try to figure out the best way to do what you can do. So we've tried to do that.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Tiffany and Christine, how have you experienced the pandemic, and what kinds of changes have you had to make either within your families or just in your daily life? I'm curious about the impact.
Well, pandemic. It's
Sorry.
all different for us all. We're not used to it. We're not going to get used to it. You know, same thing like with the water, it's a change. And with this COVID, it's very extreme. You have family you miss, you have work, you have to go through certain procedures just to get your job done, which is fine to stay safe. It's just, we're not going to get used to this, We just pray that it's over sometime soon, so we can all be back to
praying for this time next year. This time next year. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
And Tiffany stayed home during the shelter in place. Because she wasn't a seamstress or didn't help at the food pantry. And when you came back,
When I came back, I just had a lot of stuff to do.
but she also felt like she was going backwards.
Yes, you're right. I was slipping back into depression, because it sent me back into that corner. Yep. I was, I had to change my meds back to what they were. And I had lost a lot of contact with people because of my mood changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was missing work. This
Well,
my
I'm
happy
glad you're
place.
back. I'm glad you're back and out of the corner. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now I'm back
Well,
to I'm stabilized now,
good.
and back to helping the community. The community was a big thing. It felt like nothing was no more because I couldn't work. So
Yeah.
I know it's not all about me. It's just more of I felt that way,
And feeling cut off. Yeah. Yeah.
and
And
then
it's
just
hard.
to be
It's
back
hard.
and see everyone happy to see you, and then the community able to come once a week and see you like, oh my God, you get to do this once a week. And I'm like, I'm so happy. I don't care if it's once a week, just know I can help someone, and I'm back. You
Amen.
know,
Amen. And
and
doesn't that make all the difference being able to help someone?
exactly, it do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
It
know
really
that's true for me. Wow. Wow. Well, Christine, how have you experienced this horrible COVID time that we're ready to kick out and for move
It was
on?
kind of
Yeah.
it was kind of frustrating a little bit because I was so used to coming here, like doing my classes and seeing everybody and Sister Carol and just seeing everybody because I'd be so happy, especially to see Sister Carol. I'd be so happy to see her. And I just love her. So, but just, after all of that, it was just like, now I got to stay at home.
Oh,
Now my kids, it's like, things was like different. I'm used to my kids being at home at a certain distance, but it was just a little bit too much. So, but we learned to just pray about it and
yeah.
said we're gonna get through this and stuff like that. And then when Anna called me and told me that we can continue class on the Zoom app, and I was so happy. I was like, yes, thank you.
Amen.
It was like,
Amen.
we're just gonna take it step by step. I said, okay. So I was happy about that. Then she was talking about we were gonna be graduating. So I'm like, okay, we really getting there. It's really working out. And then that's when we came back and stuff like that. I was sewing. I tried the sewing, but I don't sewing ain't for me. It's okay. But at least I did try. I should have kept effort and I did try. But now I'm working, with Tiffany. She's showing me a lot of different things. So I'm actually like working with her. And I like helping people. So when it's time on Fridays to like take the stuff out and just to see people happy and stuff that help them, I feel blessed and thankful that I'm doing this.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing with this COVID-19, this horrible time, is that everyone's suffering. And so to be able to respond to others' needs, oh my God, what a gift that is at this moment. What a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just noticed the time, and there's this other topic, because since we were there in 2014 at St. Luke's, what you all have had this water crisis. I mean, this is not the COVID-19 is not your only public health crisis that you all have dealt with. Is this water crisis? And I'm curious if the four of you could talk about its impact. How are you doing now? Are things better? Can you trust the water? What's going on? How is that experience?
But with me, the water is we we somewhat got level with the water on using it because of it's the fact that it's more stuff going on today, and but we'll never forget the fact that water is still not safe. I was diagnosed with eczema when I was like 10. So
Uh-huh.
me taking a shower and then have to condition my skin all day, and then on top of that, you have this COVID. So just imagine going backwards.
Yep.
You gotta stay moisturized to keep from having dry patches all over your face and chapped skin where it's blistering, and it's like it chafes so bad where it's like you need stitches. But as the years go by, you get used to it, and you get better creams and your meds and everything, and then you drinking it. No, you can't drink it, but are you going to provide enough for us to eat and drink and everything? It was okay at the beginning. Then look at the mishap with everyone just abusing the water.
Oh,
Schools full of water just abandoned, and it's people that can't afford to go get their own water, and then it's sites that's not giving out the water, and you be left in a just it's still
right.
terrible. It's
Wow.
still terrible.
Wow.
And then you have the pipes.
Yeah,
Um,
I heard they have to replace all the pipes. Is that true?
yeah, and just the fact that you have people that own their homes. This is damaging other things in the home. These
Oh,
you
I
have to
never thought
replace.
of that. I never thought of
Yeah,
that.
at the time I was purchasing my first home, which was on Glen, and that was before I was introduced to St. Luke's. But I was purchasing my first home, and I thought everything was all good, not knowing anything about these pipes, this water, and this oh, whatever that stuff was that was
Yeah.
eating away at the pipes.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was bad. So while I'm thinking I'm just freshening up some things, I have to actually dig the whole under my basement out just for me to have some normal pipes. And that was
Whoa.
going to cost me huge. So I just gave the home back. And it was terrible for me because that was a goal for me. Own
Yeah,
me a home
exactly.
before I'm 40. And here I go I have to give it back because of some water crisis. Not anything, it's nature, it's water, okay, and then you got
But it was
whomever.
politics. It was politics that made
I
the
didn't want
problem.
to throw that in there.
No, 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 no. With me, no,
I'm not no politician.
I'll throw it in. I'll throw it in because
Thank you.
it's shocking.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that breaks my heart, Tiffany. That breaks my heart. I never thought of that kind of consequence.
it broke my heart too, because now I'm purchasing my next home that I don't have any rusty pipes. And so yeah, I have to do everything on land contract. But it's just the fact that I'm back level, that water crisis is a doozy, no one's gonna forget that. And then I don't have any small children, but I think about whom do, grandchildren, great grandchildren. My other half have grandchildren and great grandchildren. And you have to think about them too, not just yourself. You have to be it's a lot,
Yep.
it is a lot. And then here we go with the community. Can't can we
That's
be well enough for the community? You
amen.
know,
Amen.
help us help the community. So yeah, when it come down to that, yeah, it's a doozy. It
Wow.
is. I still
Wow.
have a lot of questions myself.
Yeah.
Well, I think there are a lot of questions to be asked generally.
Yes.
I'm curious, Sister Judy, Sister Carol, how did the water crisis impact St. Luke? Because you all must have dealt with it directly. I mean, I'm thinking with that many people in the building, carrying, trying to. I mean, how did you grow vegetables? Could you water your garden? I mean, what's going on?
For our
I
garden,
have visions of plants kind of glowing in the dark or something.
yeah, because we can't even water our plants with the water that came from the taps.
Really?
So, yeah, because of the lead, because then it would seep into
Into the
plant
plant.
itself. So for our hoop house or our greenhouse, we had to dig a well. We had to get a variance to dig a well. And so we had to go through that expense of digging a well. So we now use well water to water our whole garden all summer long.
Wow.
And then the water that comes into the building, we have a giant filtration system that was donated to us, and we do use that to this day. I mean, it's huge. I don't know how many gallons it is, but it's huge. And so that's filled up with tap water, and then it has to go through this filtration system of 3 different filters that are washable, but I mean, they're pretty big filters. They're not the tiny ones. And then we have to take those filters out and wash them every week. And sometimes they're orange. That's how much
Wow.
stuff comes out of our water. And
Wow.
I think the biggest thing, Simone, is that trust was broken. When this happened, we were told, and it was on our TVs, this water is good to drink. And it was drunk in front of us. And shortly after that, we knew that something was wrong with our water because it was brown and kind of orange. So we stopped using it and we started buying water to be used here for cooking. Because if you use leaded water for cooking, the heating of the water increases the lead. And so it's not, I mean, usually you boil water to get rid of the bacteria, but lead grows. So, I mean, we learned a lot, more than we wanted to know about water and about lead. But the big thing is that trust was broken. And I don't know how that's going to be revitalized, because trust, there's a mistrust. One person actually said that trust in water and government has run dry.
Wow. Whoa, isn't that power? I mean, that's so powerful.
And then now a pandemic on top of it. So I mean, it's like the backs of our people, the backs of our poor in this city are really suffering because of all the things that are happening. And I know everybody's suffering. I fully understand that.
Right. Everybody's suffering, but I think there are some, I mean, like in this instance, the suffering was caused by political decisions. So, I mean, it could have been avoided. The pandemic, and leadership, I think, could have minimized it some, but we couldn't have stopped it. But the water crisis, we didn't have to have the water crisis. But you all actually have been a leader for some other older cities, I know, in doing the testing of their pipes and finding that they too, while not as bad as Flint, that they have a bad situation that they need to address, where lead levels are a bit higher than not the crisis level, but any level of lead is a bit worrisome, especially for young people, as you were pointing out, Tiffany. So, but you all have been leaders in that, lifting it up, how critical it is. Whoa, I can't even imagine. But it sounds
it's awakened a lot in the country.
Yeah, yeah, it really has the challenge as we care for the earth is to acknowledge these consequences as we use the resources. Whoa, whoa. What a challenge. Well, I'm curious about. We only have a few minutes left. We only have about 10 minutes left. So, it just struck me that you all have, Sister Judy, Sister Carol, you totally have responded to the needs of the time, the needs of the call of the Spirit. I love, Sister Judy, that this whole thing started with a very annoying dream, and that you stayed faithful to the dream. You're like a person, like Joseph in the, having a Technicolor dream coat. So. I'm just really touched by that. And I'm wondering what the four of you see as the future for St. Luke's. Where do you think you're being called? Do you have a sense of next? Do you have a sense of continuance of what are the needs? What are you working on? Where is your heart being drawn for the four of you is what my question is. So. I don't know who wants to go first.
I can start.
Okay.
Because I think it'll open up a lot. But a big area that our next approach is for women who are suffering from abuse. And that is huge. During the pandemic, statistics say that child abuse and abusive situations for females in the home has increased by a significant percentage. And so our next approach is, and we had started that briefly before the pandemic, but we're learning, as we're opening up our classes more now, we're hearing a whole lot more again about the abuse that's going on in some of our homes. And so that's a big, that tears my heart out. That is really a difficult situation to hear the stories of abuse that we hear here. And I know the two of you hear them as well.
Yes.
It's overwhelming. And so that's where I know my heart is being led, is to be able to do more for women in particular, women and children who are in abusive situations.
Wow. You know, okay, because we're trusting in the spirit in this whole experience, I'll offer this. I practiced family law for 18 years in Oakland, and I worked a lot with families that had a dynamic of abuse in it. And one of the things that I discovered, and this may be helpful, I don't know to you, but I discovered that it's critically important to get support systems for abused women. That is critically important. And then it trickles down to impact the children. And that's a critical piece. But the piece that I discovered that not many people talk about was getting someone to relate to the abuser so that they could change their behavior, or at least because one of the things that happens often in the abuse situation is if the victim gets some power, that's going to be threatening to the abuser. And you can create a crisis situation. And that's why separation is so important. And all that stuff you know about. But one of the things we discovered in Oakland is that if we could get a resource or an ally for the abuser, we could then help preempt an escalation. And that became an important two-step process that might be helpful, because the thing that we want is flourishing families, and to ensure that those who've been abused don't get open to abuse again. And it goes back to what I heard you talking about, Tiffany, that getting into that dark corner. When you're in that dark corner, it's quite easy to let an abuser in because you don't have enough oomph inside yourself. And so to hurt again would be better than just feeling so caught in this corner. So trying to create a dynamic that's multi-layered, I don't know. That's my dream. Is someday I'd love to go back to it and do that kind of more comprehensive engagement. But I often found myself that I was best representing the abuser to shift the dynamic, and then let the abused, get the treatment, the engagement, the group work, all the important services that are needed. But anyway, not everybody has the talent. I just tell them to sit down and be quiet. But anyway, I was kind of direct.
Yeah.
So Tiffany and Christine and Sister Judy, what are you seeing as part of this future now that I've opined about domestic violence? But
well, one of the things that we've been trying to figure out is how to remove these women and put them someplace where they're safe. All of the programs are filled. There's never any room for anybody. So we're looking at the possibility of what can we do? Is there something we can do in the way of transitional housing? And Father Tom's plugged into that with us. So
that's good.
yeah.
Housing across the country, and especially transitional housing, is a huge thing. Yeah. And it's going to be worse in this COVID time. What with rent?
I know. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, we've been running your contact information on the bottom of the screen.
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we could. I'll talk to my folks who are backstage. Maybe we could do it one more time, and people can be. Here it comes. All right, connect.
Look at that power.
Okay, Tiffany and Christine, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to being aboard with the rest of the ladies, expanding this program. You know, continuing whew, this vision. I would love to stay aboard.
Amen. Amen. How
These,
important.
these women have so much to give.
Uh-huh.
They're so gifted and so talented, and know the story. You know, they've lived the story. So it's just really good to have all of us on board to be able to sit together and cry together, because that's exactly what we do.
I need to get out the basement. I need to come up here in this office so I can put on business suit and show them I'm serious. Yeah. Yes,
I hear you. I hear you. I love it. I love it. Christine, how about you? What are you looking forward to now that you've graduated? Whoa.
I know. I'm looking forward to hopefully like working here and stuff because I like what I do. I just love helping people, and every day I wake up, I'm like, I'm gonna go to work. I love coming here every morning, and then I love working with Tiffany. She's so funny.
Yeah.
So it's like me and her work together, and it's like, I just like what I'm doing. And I just like helping people, and just to see people with a smile on their face, the people that I helped last Friday that they was getting sewing machines and they needed help taking them to the car, even though these are heavy. I still was like, hold on, I'm putting them in the car, take it to the car. So I'm looking forward to bigger and better things to come along. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Fabulous. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the thing I'm looking forward to is my sign back here. Who we elect.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping you all are registered to vote.
Yes.
That you make sure all your friends are registered and have a plan to vote, because it's going to be so complicated this year.
Yeah.
We got to really help all of our people, and I think that's going to be the key for making a difference.
Yep.
Anyway, but yesterday we learned a saying when we were doing a Zoom call, and this woman from Iowa has a sign in her office that says, "Bad politicians are elected by good people who don't vote."
Ooh.
Bad politicians are, okay, you see it down there, are elected by good citizens, who don't vote. And so what we've become even more aware of is how critical it is that we all get out and vote. And we help everybody, because it's complicated. This COVID thing has made it even more complicated. Ballots are complicated. And so being able to work one-on-one with folks the way you all can do is such a gift. And be able to have conversations about how are people planning to vote? How are we going to get this done? Because we need you. We need you. So, all right. Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for letting us visit you again. I can hardly wait until I can do it again in person.
All right.
Then we can actually bring a bus and everybody can sign it and we can have a meal together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. That'd be perfect. But you could go on our website and you could do your own tour on our virtual bus. And if you register on our site for the experience, interactive experience, you get your own bus ticket. And it's got a grayed out bus on it. And then as you make stops on our map, after every stop, your bus gets colored in a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So you can, at the stops, you could learn about where we've been before. You can learn about the facts about a state. You can listen to video clips that we've put up from different sisters around the country. And anyway, we've got like 180 little things up there, the stops you can make. But after 30 stops and your bus is completely filled in with color, you win a prize. So
Oh,
anyway, we're encouraging people to do it with a bit of joy and a bit of celebration so that it's not just nuns on the bus. Even though we're doing it virtually, it's everybody on the bus. So thank you for being with us.
thank you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Keep up the good work, okay?
Yep.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. Thanks, Sister Simone.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.
Okay,
Sister
bye.
Judy. Sister Judy.
Bye.
Nice to meet you. Oh, that's nice.